stars: Lawrence Harvey, William Wyndham, Joanna Pettit, Ed Nelson, and John Williams.
Good evening. I'm your little old curator in this museum which we call the Night Gallery. There are horror stories and horror stories, elements of terror that take myriad forms. But this item has a built-in terror which can refrigerate even the most dispassionate amongst us. It has to do with a little beastie known as an earwig. A small bug that crawls into the human ear. And while inside, it doesn't whisper sweet nothings. It performs quite another function. Offered to you now on Night Gallery. A brand new nightmare which we call the Caterpillar.
Does it never stop raining?
Sometime in March.
You'll get used to it, old chap. Really. After a while, you ignore it.
I can assure you I won't get used to it, and I won't ignore it. A few more days of this, and I'll go stark, staring, raving mad, and you can ship me back to England trussed up like an old guinea hen.
Well, the unfortunate thing is, lad, you really don't have much choice.
I don't know how you can stand it. I really don't. And I don't know how poor Mrs. Warwick stands it either.
Poor Mrs. Warwick stands it very well, thank you.
I count myself a lucky man, Macy. Not only is Rona young and beautiful, but very patient with an old colonial like myself.
You can have it, both of you. Borneo, the China and Java seas, and the whole ruddy Malay archipelago. Take it with all my blessings.
Well, the first few weeks are the hardest. I've got to go out and check the North Sheds, see if they've plugged up that leak. Wet tobacco leaves are not easily pushed in the market.
Put your coat on, John. Bundle up.
My darling, I'm not 16. I'm 66. I'll be back in a quarter of an hour.
You are a moody one, Mr. Macy. You go from outrage to silence as if it were a quick tram ride.
This place is conducive to moods. And the scratchings of that miserable gramophone don't help either of them. How can you stand it?
What? The music? You make it sound rather like medicine. I don't stand it, I enjoy it. I take comfort from it.
How incredibly easy you are to please.
And that means what?
That means that you're under 28 years of age. You're an absolute knockout. And you waste away here in a Borneo jungle, 5,000 miles from everything you know, with a husband who's old enough to be
No
your...
more of that, please. We judge things very differently, Mr. Macy.
Please, call me Stephen.
I'll call you Mr. Macy. And if ever again you mention my husband, or me, or the discrepancy in our ages, I shall call you something else, Mr. Macy. As you pass through the door with your suitcase, you'll hear what it is.
I beg your forgiveness.
You have my forgiveness, Mr. Macy. But I do suggest you take each day as it comes. Stop counting time. In a year, suddenly it'll all be over. And then you can return to England, and the rains of Borneo will be but a small, insignificant historical footnote to your entire life.
Is that the way you do it?
Hardly. John and I shall remain here for all our days. Our life is here.
Well, thank heaven mine isn't. People like us don't belong here. We become like jungle vegetation. We mildew and rot and grow soggy. Our brains and our insides are... I would not force a wife of mine to stay.
If you'd a wife who loved you, Mr. Macy, force wouldn't enter into it. Marriage is love, not capitulation. I'm here by choice. And by love. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to prepare dinner.
Mrs. Warwick. I meant nothing personal. I signed a contract for a year, and I shall honor it. If I were to lose your friendship, Mrs. Warwick, that would destroy the only pleasure I have in this place. We are friends, aren't we?
Yes, of course we are, Mr. Macy.
Well, now, didn't mean to barge in. Really, I didn't. But I've got a load of kindling outside in the cart, Mrs. Warwick. What with the wet weather and all, thought you and Mr. Warwick might be needing some.